Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing, topping our newscast. He's on the third month of his term, and Governor Kenneth Mapp could finally be reaching the end of the search for heads of various government agencies. On Monday, the governor called for a same-day press briefing to introduce the latest additions to his cabinet. News 2's April Knight has the story.
In a rush press briefing on Tuesday, Governor Kenneth Mapp announced 2 additions to his cabinet. Mapp, who's wrapping up picking heads of various agencies, focused on the Department of Planning and Natural Resources, as well as Vitima. To lead DPNR, Mapp tapped attorney Don Henry, who worked in the department's legal counsel division for the past 10 years.
You're certainly going to have your hands filled. There are a lot of issues in protecting our environment and balancing the need for the territory to grow its economy and to build on its infrastructure.
Meanwhile, 2014 gubernatorial candidate Mona Barnes was nominated to head Vitima, in charge of managing territorial emergencies.
The biggest thing is ensuring that the community knows that a disaster can happen at any time. We have the mindset that it's only during hurricane season. Just more education of the public.
Barnes served in the National Guard for more than 20 years. She is trained in various aspects of emergency response and feels she's a good fit for the job.
I got the call on Friday to be here today. Well, I know it was a good fit because, like I said, I've actually been a first responder from 2005, being in the Civil Support Weapons of Mass Destruction Unit. Again, sitting as the State Command Sergeant Major, we always interacted. Being in the military with FEMA and other countries in the region.
The Henry and Barnes nominations bring the governor closer to filling key cabinet positions with only 2 more to go. Today's nominations are headed straight for the Senate on Tuesday.
Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
Now, according to the governor, he will officially be sending a transmittal to the Senate on Tuesday morning regarding the 2 nominations. We'll keep you updated on the remaining 2. Meanwhile, the Senate Committee on Rules and Judiciary unanimously voted in favor of Gustav James on Monday as Commissioner of Public Works. Also appearing before the committee was nominated Director of the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, Lawrence Olive. The committee voted in favor of Olive 6-1, with 1 nay vote coming from Senator Nellie Rivera O'Reilly, and we will have those highlights on Tuesday's newscast. Now, on Friday, senators gathered at UVI's Caribbean Green Technology Center to talk renewable energy. Energy experts from local and federal agencies engaged in a discussion of alternative energy. The goal is to incorporate renewable energy in policymaking as to build on existing sustainability policies and activities. Dr. Wayne Archibald of CGTC also presented on the advantages of tropical environments like that of the Virgin Islands. In the global discussion of alternative energy sources, we'll have more on the Renewable Energy Forum in a later newscast. The Evelyn Williams Elementary School, in an update on St. Croix, reopened Monday after being closed through the weekend because of electrical issues. Evelyn Williams dismissed its students at around 1 p.m. on Friday. According to Education Commissioner designee Cheryl McCollum, rats bit into an underground cable, causing outage that resulted in the need to close the school in the meantime. The school's electrical contractor and the Water and Power Authority worked on the damaged cable over the weekend, replacing at least 15 feet of cable. After a 5-day jury trial, a federal jury on March 6 convicted St. Croix resident Katisha Isles, 23 years of age, of conspiracy to interfere with commerce by robbery and interference with commerce by robbery. According to records, on June 17, 2013, after Isles was buzzed into Perfection Jewelry store, she held the door open for 3 masked gunmen to enter. Once in the store, one of the gunmen hit an employee several times with a gun. Another man stood at the door while the other 2 went behind the counter, broke the display, and stole approximately $100,000 worth of gold jewelry. Isles faces a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison for each of the 2 counts. Well, a recent Superior Court ruling is splitting two Plaza Extras on St. Croix, Plaza Extra East in Christiansted and Plaza Extra West in Frederiksted. That ruling came after a long-drawn court case that began in 2013 between plaintiff Fatih Yusuf and United Corporation and defendant Mohammed Hamid over ownership and partnership issues. The Superior Court ruling stated that the defendant has lawful and rightful sole ownership of Plaza Extra West in Frederiksted. There was also discussion on the plaintiffs and defendant buying out each other's stake on the Plaza Extra store on St. Thomas. Turn our attention overseas. Hillary Clinton spoke Monday at an event for the Clinton Foundation, but she kept quiet about the controversy surrounding her use of private email during her time as Secretary of State. Some Democratic lawmakers expect to hear more from Clinton on the emails in the coming days. In the meantime, others are fielding the questions. The White House said Monday President Obama and Clinton exchanged emails while she was secretary. In other news, a crowd of about 1,500 protesters, including many area high school students who skipped class, joined today to voice their displeasure with the police shooting of a 19-year-old over the weekend. They chanted, "Stand up, fight back, no more black men under attack, and indict, convict, send those killer cops to jail. The whole system is guilty." Madison police said that an officer responded to a report of a disturbance on Williamson Street on Friday night, and that officer, Matthew Kenny, shot 19-year-old Tony Robinson after he allegedly assaulted Kenny. The shooting is under investigation by the Department of Justice Division of Criminal Investigation. Well, keeping our eye on the economy, Apple unveils more details about the Apple Watch. Tech analysts say the new Apple Watch could jumpstart the smartwatch market. Today, President Obama announced a new program called Tech Hire, a program aimed at training more Americans in high-tech jobs. It's expected to be the biggest federal boost to non-college skills training in history. The White House wants to place 50,000 graduates in high-paying jobs such as software development and cybersecurity. The Labor Department says the national unemployment rate dropped to 5.5% last month, and 295,000 jobs were added in February. Here's the New York Stock Exchange with our stock market watch. The Dow, Nasdaq, S&P all up. The Dow 138, Nasdaq 15, S&P 8. Coming up on News 2, here is a VI history quiz. He helped draft the U.S. Constitution and was the first Secretary of the Treasury. He also spent the majority of his youth on the island of St. Croix. Who are we speaking about? The answer is coming up next. As we continue to recognize VI History Month, we remember Alexander Hamilton. He was born on the island of Nevis to Rachel Fawcett and James Hamilton, but he spent the majority of his youth on the island of St. Croix. Alexander was educated early by his mother and as well a Presbyterian clergyman on St. Croix. He was employed at the age of 12 as a clerk in a general store and was found to be quite exceptional in his job as well as in his writing. Alexander left the island in 1772, never to return again. In New York, Hamilton eventually enrolled in King's College, which is now known as Columbia, but withdrew from King's College and joined the local New York militia to fight against the British. Now, Hamilton quickly moved up the ranks and eventually became one of General George Washington's military aides. Later in his life, he helped draft the U.S. Constitution and was the first Secretary of the Treasury. Hamilton served in Washington's cabinet for only 5 years. Many historians regard him as the greatest and most influential Secretary of the Treasury in U.S. history. Hamilton died on July 11, 1804, at the age of 47. A row of arcaded buildings across the street from Government House in St. Croix includes the Alexander Hamilton House right there in Christiansted. While Hovenza's rack rates have been going down in recent weeks, this week it's holding steady and still at the lowest rates in a decade. If you're buying wholesale from Hovenza, you'll be paying $2.96 per gallon for regular fuel. For premium, it's $3.45 per gallon, and for diesel, it's $3.17 per gallon. A 14-cent tax is added to each gallon of fuel, which Hovenza collects for the government. Carlton Dow, who's the executive director of the Virgin Islands Port Authority, says preparation for dredging of the East Gregory Channel in Crown Bay, St. Thomas began last week in order to provide safer berthing conditions for large cruise vessels. Dow said that VIPA has hired Bioimpact Inc. to perform the mitigation requirement of the permit. The process should take about 3 weeks, he said. VIPA has hired Orion Marine Construction Inc. to perform the dredging. The project will cost about $2.5 million and is funded via bond financing secured by the Port Authority last year. Dredging, he says, should be completed by September 2015. Meanwhile, the Port Authority has some upcoming plans for St. John, and they want your input. A town hall meeting is planned as the St. John Administrator's Office hosts the VI Port Authority's Executive Director, Carlton Dow, on March 23, 2015, at the Legislature Building. It begins at 6 p.m. The Virgin Islands National Guard hosted a visit from the National Guard Senior Enlisted Advisor on St. Croix over the training weekend. Command Chief Master Sergeant James W. Holteling conducted a site visit to the 285th Civil Engineering Squadron of the Virgin Islands Air National Guard at Manning Hill, adjacent to the Roebuck Industrial Park on St. Croix. Now, he represents the highest level of enlisted leadership and is the principal advisor to the director of the Air National Guard. He is responsible for matters influencing the health, morale, welfare, and professional development of more than 105,000 Air Guard members. During the visit, he also recognized some VI airmen for their outstanding performance. The Adjutant General of the Virgin Islands, Ronaldo Rivera, has released policy changes on restricted PX access and the ration card program, that are effective April 1st, 2015 at the National Guard St. Thomas Troop Store. Now, the policy addresses authorized access and purchase limits for commodities. A new policy dated March 1st, 2015 implements the VI National Guard Ration Control Program for alcohol products. The policy establishes monthly limits, which are managed using a ration card. Another VING policy addresses change to access privilege to utilize the St. Thomas Troop Store. Effective April 1st, 2015, access will only be granted to patrons outlined in the Military Regulatory Guide. Well, March is Women's History Month. However, on Sunday, March 8th, around the globe, International Women's Day was celebrated and recognized. The YWCA USVI, they held a joint worship celebrating International Women's Day at St. Andrew's Episcopal Church in Sugar Estate on St. Thomas. Now, on March 28th, they have another event happening. That's from March 28th to the 30th. YWCA USVI, they're hosting Make It Happen Weekend. Since its inception in 2007, YWCA USVI has been at the forefront of leading an annual commemoration of International Women's Day in the Virgin Islands with dialogues, special programs, and luncheons honoring Virgin Islands women who have accomplished noteworthy achievements. Well, most states sprang forward an hour to begin daylight saving time on Sunday. It began at 2 a.m. But the federal government doesn't require U.S. states or territories to observe daylight savings time, which is why residents of Arizona, except for residents of the Navajo Indian Reservation, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, American Samoa, Guam, and the Northern Marianas Islands, did not need to change their clocks this weekend. However, your television programming times have changed once again. And here's the lineup. Judge Mathis will be now seen at 4:30, Ellen at 5:30, CBS Evening News at 6:30. News 2 will still be seen weeknights at 7 p.m., but it will now re-air at 11 p.m. the same night and 1 p.m. the following day. Also, to our CBS viewers, you may be experiencing anything from slight to complete signal loss, as well as some cable channels. The programming disruption is all due to the effects of sun outages. These outages began on Saturday and Sunday for about 2 to 3 minutes. However, through next Monday around 2:20 p.m., it will be longer durations from 7 to 20 minutes. The outages take place yearly during late February and early March as the sun overpowers our satellites. The natural phenomenon occurs when the Earth, satellite, and the sun orbits in the same path. We do apologize for the inconvenience. Be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.